So then I discovered Psych NP. So Psych NP has been on my mind, I want to say, for the last 2 years consistently, because there was one point in my life where I did think about entering psychology, being a psychologist, but then I was like, maybe I need something more hands-on. Maybe I wasn't sure. And that nursing came along and it kind of showed me that maybe this is more my field. This is what I'm looking for, where there's still some psychology and still some critical thinking, more acute care kind of stuff, more hands-on kind of stuff. And nursing was almost the best of all the worlds versus like a psychologist, where it's just speaking to people and just more of a verbal approach to work and just to like for the career path. But the more I look into it, the more I tend to like it, just because I feel like that brings me back to almost original vision or my original idea of being a psychologist. So being a Psych NP, you get to see the full spectrum of mental health. You could say you could see people that are in a healthy state of mind, but are trying to maybe improve in one aspect, maybe cognitively. Maybe they just have some reoccurring thoughts, maybe some minor mental issues. They feel like they're not working their full potential, to the other spectrum where it's like full-blown schizophrenia, and this person is talking to two people in the room and there's only one of us here, kind of a thing. So you get to see this full spectrum, which I always found really, really fascinating, because it's really hard to grasp or have the idea or even understand how people feel when they're in those deep psychotic states like bipolar, schizophrenia, those kind of things, because it's really hard for you to relate. Like you can relate somebody that maybe has a broken bone or going through pain or going through somebody dying, the grieving process, or maybe a little bit of anxiety, or they're just having a hard time getting past certain things. But just dealing with somebody, working with somebody that has like these full-blown psych issues is something really hard for us to tap into, because most of us have a little voice in our head, right? But not a lot of us really have, I don't want to say all of us, because not a lot of us really have like 4 voices in your head telling you 3 different things or 2 different things or 4 different things, So that's really hard. Like how does that feel to have voices in your head telling you to do something, or you're seeing somebody that's not there, right? Like how does that feel? How does that happen? How does one go about life with that versus maybe being next to someone's side that has a grandma that's passing away? That's a little bit more relatable. Dealing with somebody with schizophrenia and trying to imagine you in their shoes, that's really, really hard. So it's almost like a little bit of a challenge for me, and it's like a puzzle. I always like puzzle. I always like building stuff, creating stuff, and thinking at things. So that always really drew me. Like I see everybody as almost like a puzzle, not necessarily like an object, but each person is their own individual, right? So they have their own individual lives. And what's cool is that, for example, as nurses, you all somehow work as nurses, right? But all the nurses on a unit came from different backgrounds. They have a different life story. They have different hardship, different struggles. But somehow you guys are all on that same unit, right? Like how does the world bring you to just this one unit from all over your state or all over the world or all over the U.S., right? So it's crazy how that kind of works. It's always interesting. And I just like talking to people in general and just listening to them talk about where they came from, what happened, how this happened, what causes them to do this, and if this happens, they react this way. I'm just a really big listener, and I kind of just try to figure out like what's going on and maybe provide some kind of a solution. And not necessarily a solution where it's like I'm going to tell you what to do, but let's almost brainstorm together about what's going on and how we can move forward and how we can find a solution that best suits you in like a mental standpoint. Like how can we cope with certain things? Like, do you have anxiety? Have you tried the tapping method? If you haven't, let's give it a try. And if it doesn't work, let's move on from there. So I just like being able to help figure out someone's problems or help them through their problems. And nursing provided me this almost acute physical way of solving that problem, where it was more objective in the way where it was like, okay, problem is blood pressure. Okay, let's hang up pressure. Sepsis. Okay, they're vasodilating too much. Let's constrict that. Do they need fluids? Do they need that? It was more of like, this is the problem. Let's fix it. Bang, bang, bang. Objectively. Now I'm more of like thinking it in more of like a diverse and like, I don't want to say spiritual, but in like a more broader way on helping maybe people through different things.